Reid, Duke. Wilson, number 2 overall seed, so he'll have the option to go first. These two guys very familiar with each other, and we will watch them get ready for what should be a very fun set of games. We'll see who's able to take things down.
And so Dragons and Tarkir has introduced a lot of cool new stuff to Standard. We've seen a variety of cards over the weekend. A card that was very hyped on the spoiler, but we didn't see a ton of during the Swiss rounds, was Sidisi Undead Vizier, and now a Sidisi mirror match here in the finals between these two.
Wilson started off with the Sandstep Citadel, Duke with a Temple of Mystery, Jacob with a copy of Windswept Teeth as we are underway here in Game 1 of our finals. A Swamp, a Sylvan Caryatid. We head back Jacob's way. Jacob draws a Forest for the turn.
Another big difference in this matchup versus the list that Reid got through Joe Bass's in the top 8, main deck and hostilities was in Joe Bass's list. And that really constricted what Reid had to do in game number 1. Here, Reid has an open season game 1. There's no Ugin, there's no end hostilities. He can just play his stuff. And I think that's a big advantage for him. And
he has that information, so he knows that. His Courser of Crufix has been played here by Jacob Wilson. Top card is the Siege Rhino. We head back Duke's way. Duke will take a draw. Play a Llanowar Waste. Now he's got a Sidisi Brood Tyrant, so he'll turn over 3 cards. One of them is a Sidisi, so a zombie token is on the way. And some of the best 4s, 4 mana spells, of course, in their color have shown up. For Sultai, it is Sidisi. For Abzan, it is Siege Rhino.
Now, Siege Rhino, of course, a very powerful magic card, but in this matchup, it's just kind of a thing that clogs up the ground. It's hard for it to run away with the game. Sidisi, on the other hand, given how graveyard-centric Reid's strategy is, much more powerful if it goes unchecked.
Gonna head back Reid's way as Jacob did miss his land for the turn. Utter End on top of the deck. That'll be his draw next turn.
And with missing a land drop, there's an incentive here for Reid to actually just go on the offensive. If he has a removal spell for this Courser of Crufix, you might see him just snap it off and start attacking.
Yeah, see how aggressive the Duke wants to get here. See if he can take advantage of the situation.
You don't have to play around Downfall because Jacob doesn't have double black. And you can assume if Jacob had Abzan Charm that he would have just done it on his own turn to hunt for lands. So the coast is clear here for Reid to take an aggressive approach if he wants it.
There's a Courser of Crufix. Take a look at that top card. It's Sylvan Caryatid. Into the red zone, Reid is going to go.
And if Reid's getting in with the zombie too, I think that means he probably has a murderous cut here before blocks.
Certainly feels that way. Did turn over a copy of Sylvan Caryatid, so another zombie from Sidisi. Got plenty of cards in the graveyard if he would like to cut this Courser. And you can see the murderous cut in his hand, him reaching for the Swamp.
This is just too juicy of a play to give up here with Jacob drawing an Utter End next turn and having already missed a land drop.
Yeah. There goes the Courser. Murderous cut here from Jacob.
Okay, that's a very important response for Jacob to have here because he's missing a land drop next turn. And if Sidisi got another attack in with all those zombies, even if Jacob finds land number 4 next turn, it's probably too much.
Yeah, this turn, as we know, he's going to pick up a copy of Utter End. We'll see what comes after that. Still a pretty good turn there for Reid, nonetheless. Hero's Downfall on top of his deck now, as we see from Courser. A Temple will join the party. Reid will leave Hero's Downfall on top. We'll head back Jacob's way. There's the Utter End. Just a very quick passing of the turn from Wilson. Duke will draw his Hero's Downfall. Take a look at that top card now as a Polluted Delta. That'll come into play very quickly. I'll trigger the Courser. And Dragonlord Salumgar on top of the deck now.
One of those one-ofs in Reid's list that he can flip over and, you know, not very good with Whip of Erebos in that case, though there's still corner cases that can come up clearing out blockers or taking a Planeswalker, and something he can also tutor for with Sidisi. Also something he can just kind of draw as the game drags on. Just another powerful high-impact card.
Reid tapping mana right now. This is a Whip of Erebos. These creatures will come into the red zone here and attack for 6, which means Reid will gain 6 life. Wilson with no response to that. He'll draw a card here. It's going to need to be a land for him to be able to fight in this game. It's a copy, it looks like, of Tassiger. All he can do is pass the turn back.
And Reid playing that whip into the face of the Utter End that Jacob might have been able to cast this turn, but saying, you know, if he Utter Ends that, he's just taking too much damage inside of combat.
We'll have a whip activation. Sidisi will come back. There will be a trigger. Satyr Wayfinder is one of the cards, which means that zombie will be joining the party. This will also allow Reid to play a Swamp now, thanks to the Courser. Whip on top of the deck. This deck really getting to work this game.
Yep. I mean, Jacob not offering a ton of resistance here, but you can see a hand here of Siege Rhinos and spot removal spells. No guarantee he puts up a great battle here, even if he's making his land drops, because the Siege Rhinos are pretty trivial for Reid to kill or overpower, and there's no great angle here for a spot removal spell to be that impactful.
Another zombie token. Torrent Elemental, the top card of Reid's deck now. He's dealt a lot of damage. He's built up a really nice board. Wilson will take a draw step. It'll probably be his last one of the game, and it is. Reid Duke's going to win game number 1 here very quickly over Jacob Wilson. Saltai Reanimator quickly up a game over Rob's on control.
I mean, we said settle in for a long one. That's about the fastest game of this matchup you're going to see.
Yeah, that's what I think, too. I did not expect things to go that way. However, with mana issues, things can end very, very quickly, and Sidisi certainly helped facilitate that. Duke very quickly up a game.
Now Jacob goes to go to the sideboard here.
It's got some decent options. You see 2 Fleece Main Lions, a Virulent Plague, a Back to Nature, a Bioblight, an Ultimate Price, a Nissa, an Ugin, which, of course, we did mention about Reid's earlier match against Joe Bass. I'm sure that will be coming in. 2 Drowning Sorrows, 2 Duress, and Hostilities, and 2 Reid the Bones.
So the big stuff here, the sweepers, the Ugin and the Hostilities make it much harder for Reid to just dump all the stuff on the table, which he's able to do very liberally in the first game. Beyond that, there are some okay options here. I think Bioblight is a pretty good answer here to Sidisi and some of the other threat cards. Back to Nature may do enough in terms of answering Whip of Erebos, and Jacob's soft to that card. He doesn't have things like Erase. The 2 copies of Duress are okay-ish because Reid's boarding into a lot more spells himself. So besides the Ugin and the Hostilities, and I would say the Reid the Bones, there's some medium quality options here for Jacob.
For Reid's side, he's got 2 Doomway Giants, 2 Bioblights, a Disdainful Stroke, 2 Heroes Downfalls, a Negate, 2 Saltai Charms, Freak God of Affliction, a Drowning Sorrow, a Duress, a Thoughtseize, and a Treasure Cruise.
We saw this package in the top 8. You're just going to see the cards that stabilize his deck a little bit, give him some staying power, allow him to answer some of Jacob's stuff, and make him so he's not completely all in on Whip of Erebos and that kind of strategy. So Treasure Cruise, Thoughtseize, Duress, Negate, Disdainful Stroke, those are great additions. The additional copies of Heroes Downfall here, they're good answer spells, especially against the Planeswalkers, which if they're left unchecked are really problematic. Heroes Downfall is very nice here because there's a variety of Planeswalkers, Elspeth, for example, Garruk, where if Jacob plays it and activates it once, it's probably fine, but left uncontested, they run away with the game. So Heroes Downfall is a very good response to those cards. The Farika, God of Affliction, also very good in what should be a drawn-out affair.
Well, we're going to show off Dylan Donegan's invitational token one more time as his defense of being the invitational champion. Well, that's long gone. Didn't make the top 8. He will not be going back-to-back here, but this elemental token, of course, is available for just a little while longer, not too much longer. And one of these guys, either Reid or Jacob, will be having the new token.
Yeah, we're going to rotate in a new token here once we have a new invitational champion, which we'll have momentarily. There's a couple different ways to get this token. You can register for any of the 2-day 20K Open Series events. Any Premier 5 IQ, either one that we're running here or at your local store, will come with these tokens. And if you place an order on StarCityGames.com for $5 or more, we will send the token as well. But again, limited time offer, so if you want to get your Dylan Donegan Elemental token, either sign up for one of our large events or place an order with StarCityGames.com today.
Back to the match we will go. We will focus, of course, on Jacob Wilson and Reid Duke. Game number 2. Wilson will be on the play.
Although this is not a very play-draw biased matchup, it's hard. I mean, that game is definitely an anomaly, what we just saw there. Jacob couldn't make his land drops and couldn't defend himself. For the most part, the game's going to go on for a very long time, and so play-draw doesn't matter too much. I actually thought it was possible when Reid squared off in this matchup in the top 8 that it was possible that one of the players would elect to draw first because it feels like making your land drops is the most important thing. Both Joe Bass and Reid elected to play when they had this matchup in the quarterfinals, so I guess it's not that extreme, but not that play-draw sensitive.
I mean, said settle in for a long one, and I still think that'll be the case, even though the first game took under 10 minutes, which was much of a surprise. Again, mana issues causing that as both players into the drawing boards here of their sideboard. Looks like they're relatively happy with their configuration. As we have all of our tournaments finishing up now. Our finals are invitational, our 2-day 20K standard open. Joe Lissette among the competitors in the top 8 there. We have our modern Premier IQ as well as our legacy Premier IQ as well. So Sunday is championship day, crowning 4 champions here.
We had a crowd there, the legacy Premier IQ top 8, Brian Brondoin, Tom Ross, Chihoy Yim, looked pretty stacked.
Yeah, should be a really, really nice one there, that's for sure. Results will be available on our coverage page for you guys. See what those players are playing and who ends up being the champion of that tournament.
During my break, I got to wander over there and watch Andrew Shrout lose with Dredge, which really just fills me with a lot of
That
joy.
warms your heart, doesn't
Just,
it?
just love it.
Not a dredge guy.
Not a dredge guy. At least he's playing with lands, you know.
Well, that's one step in the right direction.
Yeah. Manaless Dredge is like performance art. It's not even a Magic deck. It's just like this completely made up, has nothing to do with the game. Dredge is close to that, but at least there's lands and spells.
Maybe I'll play Manaless Dredge my next Legacy tournament just for you.
I mean, you will not enjoy it. You're going to draw up your opening hand, and your instinct is going to be this. You're going to say, "Oh, my hand's 7 horrendous cards. I guess I should mulligan." But that's actually the hand you're looking for.
I'm not allowed to mulligan.
Then you're not allowed to
You're not allowed to mulligan.
Right, because you lose the game. It's actually multiple time walks.
Yeah, your hand is forced. You're actually not allowed to mulligan.
What happened to you last round? My opponent drew a daze at any point.
That's all part of it.
That's all part of it.
You sign up for that.
Yeah. A lot of good brews in the Legacy tournament,
Yeah.
always.
Jacob will be on the play here. Take a look at his opening hand. At least one Sands have Citadel over there, so does have some lands to play. He will keep. He'll play the Citadel. We'll go back over to Reid. Reid with the Temple of Mystery.
So a lot of the game plan here for Reid is going to be trying to protect himself as much from end hostilities and Ugin as possible. I know there's only one copy of each of those cards right now in Jacob's deck, but those are the ways that Reid gets beat from winning positions. Jacob can play the card advantage game pretty effectively with Reid the Bones and Abzan Charm, and if he can bleed out enough of Reid's resources, then those sweepers combined with the card drawing becomes a very effective strategy.
Another Citadel. And passing the turn back to the Duke. Lenore waste. And Reid will pass it back over to Jacob. Jacob will take a draw. Third Citadel. I'm just passing, so players getting their mana online. Nothing too crazy happening just yet in the early stages of this game.
This might be one of those settle-in games
It feels
talked
like
about
it.
before.
Reid figuring out what land he wants to play here. He'll go with the Windswept Teeth. He'll sacrifice that. Forest on the way. And we'll see what the play will be.
Took a long time with that land drop.
He sure did. Clearly something to think about in his hand. Feels like maybe a course return. Yep. Take a look at that top card. Temple of Malady. Pass it back over to Wilson. Wilson will take a draw.
Now, no planes in Reid's deck. That Windswept Heath just there to grease the wheels on some Delve cards.
Siege Rhino is here. Wilson up to 23. Duke down to 16. Temple of Malady the draw. Delta on top of the deck. See how Reid wants to move forward here. He thought quite a bit his last turn. But he will start things off with the Delta. Gain a life. Hero's Downfall is the reveal.
And you can always sense it already, the way the game is shaping up here, that Jacob's hand of lands, creatures, and removal spells with no big trump is something Reid's going to be able to power through fairly easily with most of his hands, particularly post-board when he has more removal spells, more counter spells, and more card drawing. Jacob needs to find either a lot of card drawing to force the hand on Reid's side to overextend into his sweeper, or he just needs to find something like Ugin outright. But these draws of like Siege Rhino, Hero's Downfall, a discard spell, and some lands, those are great Abzan hands, but they may not be good enough to win games in this matchup.
Pluto Delta, sacrificed, searches up a swamp. We'll see the top card of Reid's deck is a Duress. Even though it's the old school Duress, brought back in Dragons of Tarkir.
Some old school lands. I think Reid is mono Ice Age with everything because I'm suspecting that's his first set. And these are just the cards he originally owned.
He's an old school guy. Tassiger, a little delve action. Gets the 4-5 into play for Duke.
There's quite a few reasons to love Reid. For me personally, that might be the top of the list.
The Ice Age lands?
The Ice Age lands, the Ice Age counterspells in Legacy, just probably the same cards he played with his brother Ian, who's now in R&D.
Yep.
They were kids.
Temple of Silence here for Jacob. That's land number 5. We'll see where his top card goes. It's going to stay on top.
So a hand with Utter End, Elspeth. I mean, there's some power here. Jacob's got definitely a hand that can punch a little bit.
Coming on in. Reid will block right here.
And if Reid is willing to block here and risk something like Abzan Charm or Bioblight, that's indicating that he's got a pretty loaded hand, because Tassiger in these protracted control mirror matches, one of the best things going on.
Also, you know, if Jacob does have one of those effects, it's his entire turn.
Exactly, it's his entire turn. If it's Bioblight, you know, it's questionable if Jacob even has Bioblight in his deck anymore. If it's Abzan Charm is certainly powerful in other ways. So I like the block here from Reid, even though on the surface it looks like he's risking a very powerful card.
Utter End will take care of Tasker, which means Siege Rhino gets a trample over for 4 points of damage. Duke will go down to 13. Duress the draw, Yavimaya Coast on top of the deck. Reid still with Temple of Malady in hand as well. The Coast comes in. Opulent Palace is now on top of the deck. Reid will play Duress. He wants to see what's going on in Jacob's hand. You'll find an Elspeth, Murderous Cut, another Siege Rhino, and a Forest. 2 cards eligible there.
This is a very powerful hand if Reid doesn't go way over the top and starts getting Whip of Erebos going. I mean, there's a lot of power in this hand. Reid most likely takes Elspeth out of here, and then Siege Rhino and Murderous Cut with the Siege Rhino already in play. That's a clock with Reid at 14. I believe Reid has Negate in hand, which makes taking Murderous Cut slightly more attractive, because if Jacob tries to commit the Elspeth, that could be a really big tempo swing.
Yep. Interesting decision here for Duke. He's going to go with Murderous Cut. Here comes Courser. Wilson down at 21. See if Duke has anything else to add. He will just pass the turn. Knows exactly what Jacob is working with outside of the top card of his deck. Don't get a great look at it. Here comes the Rhino. This is the easy part of the turn. Duke going to go down to 10. A little bit lower here to 10.
And Reid taking the removal spell there in lieu of the Elspeth, definitely a representation that he has one of his counter spells in his hand right now. We'll see if it's Negate or Disdainful Stroke.
It is Negate. I'll take care of Elspeth. Reid able to cross that off his list of cards to worry about. His Opulent Palace is the draw. Thoughts he's on top of the deck. In comes the Courser. Wilson down. A little bit lower. Reid will now play Salamga. Which is a pretty good one here. A lot of toughness.
Very good blocker, and now Elspeth much less of a concern.
Yeah, Elspeth long gone from that counterspell, and if another one does show up, well, not too worried about that.
Yeah, this is such a powerful play here from Reid, because if Jacob plays Siege Rhino, well, he's got a very good defense set up. And if Jacob decides to play Elspeth, well, he has a very good offense set up.
Yeah.
And he's got a really big resource advantage at this point. So you get the sense that Jacob needs to try to close the game out pretty quickly. He doesn't have enough mana to even get to Ugin at this point. And Reid getting this powerful of a blocker here is just worth a ton right now.
Well, there's a Siege Rhino. We knew about that one. Pass that turn back. Thought seizes the draw. Murderous Cut on top of the deck. Here is Thoughtseize, it seems, and it is. So we'll see exactly what Jacob is working with. Two very powerful cards here in Sidisi and Tassiger. Be interesting to see what Reid selects now.
Well, Tassiger probably warrants a removal spell. Sidisi is a little cumbersome on this board, although I guess because Jacob's not in a position to attack right now, the extort is a bit of a freebie. Or excuse me, the exploit rather.
I could see Jacob wanting to cast Sidisi, sacrificing a Siege Runner, because Siege Runner's not attacking very well.
It's not doing anything right now. You know,
Death Touch on Sidisi is very useful in this situation.
And the tutor is very dangerous in a spot here where Jacob, the nuts and bolts cards in Jacob's decks don't matter very much right now, but tutoring for something like Ugin or whatever his big plays are is worth quite a bit.
So Sidisi's going to bite the dust. Tassiger is left over. Bunch of mana. Here's a Treasure Cruise. So Duke will draw a Murderous Cut, a Sylvan Caryatid, and a Thoughtseize. Top card is another copy of Thoughtseize.
Not really what Reid's in the market for at this point. He wants removal or big trumps.
He does have a land in Temple of Malady. He's had that one for some time. That Thoughtseize very quickly going to the bottom. Take a look at the top card. Well,
There we go.
that'll do just fine.
That's what we're looking for.
That'll do just fine. And Hornet Queen. Pass that turn back over to Wilson. Tassiger in hand. Gets a fresh card. Here come the Rhinos.
So this is a great attack here. Yes, Reid has the option of double blocking here and getting one of the Rhinos off the table, but if he goes ahead and does that, he falls to 3 from the unchecked Rhino, and then a Siege Rhino off the top is lethal. The alternative is that Reid chump blocks with the Corsair Crewfix, and that's not bad either.
Double block looks to be the choice here from Reid.
What's especially dangerous here from Reid's spot about the double block is the last card here is Tassiger. So Jacob has an option here of playing the Tassiger post-combat, delving away everything that isn't the Siege Rhino, and then it's very likely, if Jacob doesn't get to the Siege Rhino now, that he gets to it at some point down the line, with Reid falling to 3.
Make life a little difficult. And Reid does fall to 3. Now it is Tassiger time. Everything but the Siege Rhino, as you mentioned. Jacob with one card left in hand. Nobody knows what it is except for him. Looks like it may be a land that he wants to play.
Yeah, ask Reid over there how many cards in his hand.
Quite a few. Llanowar waits to pass the turn back. Will Wilson. Duke will draw that Hornet Queen. Reid at 3. Siege Rhino in the graveyard, Tassiger in play. Can't forget what's on the board, too.
And I just have to assume that Reid has some line of play here to clean up everything, because it just seems unnecessarily risky for him to go down to 3 and put the Siege Rhino in the graveyard and so forth if there wasn't some sort of response when he just did have the option of jump blocking.
Well, Murderous Cut's going to target Tassiger. It's going to be an expensive Murderous Cut. And Reid says, you can have your Planeswalker back. So Nissa, here's Thoughtseize. There goes Nissa. Duke's down to 1. Follow-up, Caryatid, tapped out. After the Opulent Palace, pass the turn back. Hope Jacob doesn't peel Siege Rhino, obviously.
Yep.
Wilson will draw. It's a Temple. Top card goes to the bottom. No good attacks thanks to Slumguard. It's 7 toughness. Duke will get to untap.
Jacob could also bolt Reid out with Ugin at this spot too.
Yeah.
And Jacob's on 22. Reid doesn't have much of an offense, though Hornet Queen changes that quite a bit. But it's going to probably take some turns here for Reid to turn this game around, unless he finds Whip of Erebos, in which case he can just start gaining life and pushing himself out of range of such things.
Seder Wayfinder will turn over 4 cards. None of them are lands. Not sure if Reid needed one or not, but he didn't find one. He's going to tap a bunch of mana now. This is 7. That's Queen B. 4 Hornets will join it.
And Reid can still leave the Slumguard back on defense, which protects from the Siege Rhino. next turn can begin going on the offensive with Hornet Queen, and Whip of Erebos is really the draw at this point that Reid's looking for. Not only his graveyard attack, but one big lifelink hit should pull him out of range of most of Jacob's responses.
Was Reid able to fade another draw step? And that is the question. Yep, unswept Heath, pass the turn back. Reid will quickly untap and take a draw here. Jacob made him sweat a little bit there. Tassiger. Reid really adding to the board now because he wants to get this game over with.
Yep.
As few draw steps as possible for Jacob. That's the plan.
I mean, he has Soul of Innistrad in the graveyard too, but that's a very little help. The Courser he gets back probably doesn't impact Jacob's ability to find outs here because crawling back above 3 life just takes so long.
We'll see a Tasker activation. Courser, Polluted Delta. Gonna give him Soul of Innistrad.
Yeah, Soul of Innistrad is just very slow in the spot and does nothing to impact the number of outs that Jacob has access to.
We'll see how many creatures Reid wants to attack with here. I was wondering if he'd want to serve in with Salumgar in this situation.
Well, I think that he would like to hit, basically, can he do 7-7-8 or 8-7-7? That gets Jacob in 3 turns. He can leave back enough on defense where he can throw everything in front of the Siege Rhino if Jacob makes an attack and won't die in response to a removal spell. You see he leaves 5, setting aside the Tassiger, he sets back 5 toughness on defense and a death touch creature. So even if Jacob rips something like Hero's Downfall, he attacks, reblocks with everything, and if Jacob has drawn a removal spell, the Siege Rhino still dies and Reid does not.
Here's a Tasker activation. Courser coming back. Reid untapping. Reid is drawing. The first attack was 8.
Yeah, get the 8 attack out of the way first, so in case you need to transition over to 7, you know, you have more to defend yourself with, and you get the big attack out of the way first.
Two turns to go, it seems, for the Duke.
Yeah, there's no way to cut it into 1 right now.
Yeah, he might be attacking with more now, however, with the way he's pulled Tassiger forward.
He would like to be, I suppose a nice sub goal here would be able to close out the game in 2 turns, even if your Tassiger dies. But it's definitely about getting the game over in 2 turns.
Yeah, everybody's coming. Can't forget Siege Rhino right now gets -1/-1 thanks to Salumgar, so this Tassiger attack, it's not like it's just running into Siege Rhino.
Exactly.
So this is a very safe attack, and we know that Reid does have Courser of Crewfix in hand.
And Reid just clarifying, yep, Salumgar triggers and -1/-1 your team.
Siege Rhino now 3/4. This is a pretty healthy attack. Again, you mentioned not able to actually get it done in 1 turn.
This is non-lethal, but this might be the type of attack where Jacob says, well, I guess I can still draw end hostilities, so I might as well chump block now because I can't attack on the way back no matter what happens,
Yep.
and it saves me 3 points, which could be really significant if Jacob draws end hostilities and then there's a rebuild.
Courser, land, Duke up to 2. Top card's Sidisi. Yet again, doesn't keep him out of Ugin range, doesn't keep him out of Siege Rhino range. Let's see the draw for Wilson. Siege Rhino!
There it is.
Yep.
Is this Sameful Stroke hanging out there? I don't think so.
Let's go
All
to
right.
game number 3. A big top deck there for Jacob Wilson. Reid did everything he could to try to close it out in time.
Yeah, I mean, he had to take some risks in that game. There was no way for him to completely lock Jacob out. He tried to end the game as fast as possible. That's all he could do.
Yep. And he just could not do it. One turn short. What a draw there for Wilson. We're all tied up.
You can see the look on Reid's face. I mean, 1 turn away from being up 2-0 here.
Yeah. I think he did everything he could there.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to attack with the most stuff, activate Tassiker as many times as possible, leave enough stuff back on defense so even if Jacob ripped a removal spell, he would be fine. But he could not close the door on Siege Rhino or Ugin being lethal, could not find his disable stroke, couldn't gain life with Whip of Erebos, and so Jacob was drawing live into the last turn and found it.
Siege Rhino does it again. Jacob Wilson wins game number 2 here over Reid Duke. We're all tied up, means Duke will be on the play. You do see the sideboard options available yet again here for Reid. 2 Doomwakes, 2 Bile Blights, Disdainful Stroke, which would have been helpful there. 2 Heroes Downfalls and a Gate. 2 Sultai Charms, a Farika, God of Affliction, and Drown in Sorrow. Duress, Thoughtseize, Treasure Cruise. We saw those last 3 that last game. So I'm not sure how much will change given that he will be on the play here.
Yeah, it's the same story, I think. The play draw, to me, does not matter very much in this matchup because the game's likely to go on for a very, very long time. So the cards that were good on the draw should be good on the play. I still like Duress, Thoughtseize, Treasure Cruise, Negate, Disdainful Stroke, the Heroes Downfalls, and the Farikas. It's the same story.
Anything change, you think, for Jacob?
I don't really think so. It's the same story. The good cards are good, and it doesn't really matter if he's on the play or on the draw.
Fair enough. Game number 3 will be underway here in just a moment. We have Joe Lissette actually in the finals of our 2-day 20K Standard Open right now. And then Tom Ross and Brian Braun are doing battle in our Legacy Premier IQ. Speaking of IQs, plenty of them available. If you want to run at your local store, you get exclusive playmat, dice bags, pins, all the good stuff.
Yeah, there's plenty of tiers to these IQs, all the way up to the 5K Premier IQs that we run here every Sunday. You can have these at your store as well. Never StarCityGames.com. Get more information. We send over these kits with exclusive playmats, dice bags, pins, and SCG premium vouchers. Some of these are giveaways just for signing up. Some of them are giveaways for top 8ing. And if you're looking to qualify for the Invitational, if you're looking just for more local organized play, and for some of our players, this was a primary path to the Players' Championship, you're going to want to play in these early and often.
IQs are pretty sweet. I know you talk about primary path to the Players' Championship. Joe Lissette was there before, and he might be heading back there again. Just won our 2-day 20K Standard Open, so congratulations to him on another Standard Open win.
What's that, 4 now?
Yeah.
That's 4 for our Legacy Specialist?
Our Legacy Specialist, Joe Lissette, as his Twitter picture does say. We have to rename it. Miracle Mastermind, I don't think that works anymore. We have to give him something else.
Hasn't had a good run in a Legacy event in a while. 4th Standard Open win. Still Legacy Specialist, Joe Lissette.
That's right. 1 Legacy Open win, 4 Standard Open wins.
Yep.
Big win there, especially because Season 2 is a shorter season.
It's real short. I mean, I think there's something like 6 opens total.
Yeah.
It's not a lot.
There's not a lot of it. And for him, with Season 1, he had a pretty good Season 1 in the Open Series. Coming into this event, he had 196 Open Series points, so he wasn't able to clinch it. That title, of course, belongs to Jim Davis, but Season 2 might be looking pretty good for Joe, especially after this W.
I mean, it is, northeast-centric, and it starts with Syracuse next week. So, again, it depends if that's the point where Joe decides to make his run. But there's a lot of catching up to do, and, Ross had a top 8 performance this weekend. It's not really good news for him either, but a win's a win, always helpful.
We do know that Joe is oftentimes a traveling man as well.
I mean, Syracuse is some dedication. That's not the easiest airport.
You're not kidding. For Season 2, Joe, taking a look at his points, he had 156 coming into Season 2 as of this weekend. Kevin Jones is actually our leader with 172. So once all those points do trickle in, we'll see where things do stand. But Joe could be on top of things as soon as Monday. Congratulations yet again to him and his big win. As we have Duke and Wilson here for game number 3. Looks like Reid's going to go back.
And for Jacob here, a win is our first shake-up to the Players' Championship in 2015 as well. Reid was there last year on the back of his runner-up performance in the Season 3 Invitational, losing to Tom Ross in the finals, who already had a slot locked up by virtue of his Season 2 Invitational win. So Reid can return here with a win.
It got passed down, but Reid made the most of it with a top 4 finish at that Players' Championship.
And no hard feelings losing to Tom Ross at the height of his powers last year.
No, not at all. And Tom, he had another good weekend here as well. Again, he's in our semifinals of our Legacy Premier IQ, but also he got 17th at the Invitational this weekend.
Yep. Infecting some people. I got to watch a little bit of a match where his opponent was basically mid-handshake extension as he was getting becoming mezzed for a lethal.
No. Just another
Just another day at the office.
It really is. Duke, it feels maybe like a little bit of a reluctant keep. Lana will waste and just passing the turn.
Reid's face belies nothing.
A Swamp, a Satyr, Wayfinder. Couple of cards here. Temple of Malady will go to the grip. The rest will go to the graveyard. Hero's Downfall, Thoughtseize, and Tassiger.
I have never seen a hint of emotion out of his face until the handshake is extended by either person.
That is fair.
So,
Here's a Thoughtseize. You'll see Treasure Cruise. Murderous Cut, Farika. Well, of course, your Crew Fix. That Satyr Wayfinder was very important for Reid. That's his third land there in Temple of Malady.
it's a really solid hand here. The Treasure Cruise, to me, is one of those cards where if you don't have something specific in mind you're trying to do, you are well served often just cutting that out, because Reid becomes more of a value deck post board. Though there is a similar story for Farika here as well, and Jacob's deck is not very good at getting that off the table. Joe Bass, for example, had an erase in his sideboard, so he was a little bit less exposed to Farika.
We'll see what Jacob does want to select. It's also nice because one Farika seems like the number you'd want to play, but the fact that Reid does have access to Sidisi means it's something that he can find. Courser's going to bite the dust, however, with the Thoughtseize. A Forest here for Jacob. And we're going to go back Reid's way. Satyr Wayfinder will be feeling a little frisky here in a moment. Doesn't often get to get in there. That's right.
Little taste.
Here is a Temple. See where that top card goes. Reid going to consult the grip before making his decision. Oh, 4 cards already in the graveyard. He's almost in Treasure Cruise territory.
Yeah, no blue mana just yet,
Yep.
but
Gonna leave that one on top. And a Duress now. Get an idea of what Jacob is working with. You see a Siege Rhino, another end. A Nissa World Waker, and also a Sun's Champion. Of course, with Crew Fix. And his third land, which is a Windswept Heath.
this hand really needs that Courser, because it is slow and clunky and at risk of missing land drops otherwise. Reid's hand would have to be pretty specific here. But since he can't select that, looking at Elspeth, Nissa, Utter End.
All powerful cards.
Yeah,
doubt.
no obvious choice here. This is one of those spots where you really wish it was Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
The Courser here is the standout card.
Maybe even Ostracize.
Ostracize would play.
Yeah.
Despise.
Also fine. This is going to bite the dust. We go back Wilson's way. Wilson will take a draw step. Temple, Silence. He will play that. Take a look at the top card. Courser will be coming later. Looks like a tough decision here for Jacob. He is really thinking things through. That one's going to go to the bottom. That means it's fun time for Satyr Wayfinder again. It's 2 for 2. Might be the most damage it's ever dealt. Here's a Farika. There's an Opulent Palace. Blue mana, very important.
I don't know. I've seen Gerard attack for lethal a couple times. And Thoughtseize the draw here from Jacob now. I mean, he's got Siege Rhino. He's got some good 4-mana action here, but that Treasure Cruise is coming online next turn, so he's just got to get it out of the hand. Even if it's whole turn, he's just got to get that out of there.
Windswept Heath's the land. No interest in playing the Courser. We just pass back.
Yeah, that's an interesting spot there because Reid just gets to go untap and kill it. And Jacob, because this game's setting up to be a really slow, attrition-based type of game, he wants to make sure he at least gets one shot with the Courser.
At least an attempt at getting a card.
At least one shot with it. And with Windswept Heath, it's possible he gets multiple cracks at it inside of one turn.
Yeah. A third hit from Satyr Wayfinder. Duke will pass the turn back. Jacob will draw. Tassiger is what he's found. Looks like it may be Courser time. It is. Top card, Obzon Charm. That's a goodie. Sacrifice here.
And Reid may pull the trigger now in response to the fetch land. Getting this courser off the table.
Murderous Cut's the only card that we know about in Reid's hand. 2 cards in hand.
Because if Jacob's willing to give up an Obzon Charm, that is a pretty loud statement of, I'm on the hunt for lands right now. And Reid can't wait to see what comes up because of the way the priority works.
Yeah.
So if this resolves and the top card's a land, Jacob just gets it.
There's Murderous Cut.
Yeah, I like this play a lot from Reid. The land here is obviously very important for Jacob.
Actually, it's kind of interesting because if it is a land on top, if it's not a land on top, he actually can kill before he gets to put it into play. Because he sacrifices the Windswept Heath, the land comes into play, triggers Courser to gain a life. You kill it with the life trigger on the stack.
Oh, sure, yeah. That opens up a priority point.
Yeah. So that's actually
That's
actually kind of interesting on if Reid wants to do it then or not. Gonna get a snake either way as we move forward.
Yeah, I forgot that the Courser trigger actually makes it a little bit funky there.
Yeah, it's a small pause, which gives him the opportunity. Here's 3 mana. There's a Courser.
Yeah, a similar match many years ago that involved an opponent's Cabal therapy, a removal spell on my hand, and the person drawing Wall of Blossoms, and it's the same sort of setup.
Yeah, absolutely.
A normal creature is just, priority just occurs, but with a trigger, it changes.
Thoughtseize here from Reid. Elspeth, Siege Rhino, Tassiger, Utter End. And Reid knowing what he's going to draw next turn, which is just a copy of Sylvan Caryatid as he's working towards the devotion for Pharika.
This feels like it's Tassiger out of this hand.
Yeah.
Utter End and Siege Rhino are cards Reid can overpower. Elspeth's pretty far away. Tassiger is just a potent 1-mana play.
The draw Satyr Wayfinder.
With Reid getting his beat on here a little bit, it's nice to pin Jacob into 1 spell a turn territory. And even with Siege Rhino play, Reid can keep trucking in with the Death Touch snakes.
I'm curious which spell it will be this turn. Jacob going to take a look at Pharika. Wants to make sure he knows what the God of Affliction does.
Well, he's also worried about Reid potentially getting into devotion and then starting to attack. That can swing the race quite a bit as well.
Caryatid on top of the deck, that would make it so there's 6 devotion in play. 1 away from that magic number. Jacob going to pass the turn back. That means we are likely going to see an Utter End here. You have my Ghost on top. See you later, Courser. Stopping Reid in his draw step.
Yeah, that's one of those spots where, maybe Jacob wants to Utter End the Pharika, maybe he wants the Courser, and whether or not it's a land coming is the tipping point.
Caryatid, kick it over. Wilson's Way, Plains is a pretty big draw. There is Satyr Wayfinder. Take a look at a couple of cards. Siege Rhino's 1, Elspeth is 2, Obzon Charm is 3, Sidisi is 4.
And that's a heartbreaker for Jacob because he gave up on Siege Rhino that turn because all he wants is land number 6 for the Elspeth in his hand. Because the way the game's shaping up here, Reid with no action in his hand, Elspeth pretty easily stabilizes this game. And now Jacob's looking at taking some more chip shots and even misses the land drop next turn. Then he just has to cast the Siege Rhino. I like the play that Jacob made there, but missing with the Wayfinder there is critical.
Reid with a Death Touch snake on the end step. He'll be serving in. Jacob, of course, will trade with the Death Touch creature. 2 damage will come across. Wilson down to 6. Did Reid draw a good one? That's the question. You have Myakos, kick it over.
No, he did not.
Wilson, land, Elspeth. And that's why last turn you didn't see him cast a Siege Rhino.
Yeah, because Reid's got nothing going on right now. He's just a deck with some creatures in play. This is a potent spot for Elspeth. It's not always great in the matchup, but the way this game is shaped up with Reid never really getting anything of substance going, this could be one of those Elspeth 3 times and ultimate you out sort of games.
Reid gonna tap some mana. It's a Courser. Take a look at the top card. Temple of Mystery trigger there. We get 2 triggers, 1 for life, 1 for Scry. Courser of Crewfix, the top card. See where this one goes.
course, there seems of very little help right now.
Reid agrees, puts it to the bottom. Pluto Delta, not much help either. That'll be his draw next turn. Here comes Seder Wayfinder. There's a block. That's just more fuel there for the Farika. Wilson with a Temple. Take up Elspeth. 3 soldiers coming. And now the Siege Rhino. And now he's stabilized.
2 turns away from going ultimate. Reid drawing a dead card, or close to a dead card next turn.
About as close as you can get, right? Reid will take that draw, Fluted Delta. Torrent Elemental on top. A little late to the party, unfortunately, for that card. Actually could have played a role in things, maybe a turn earlier.
Torrent Elemental is also a pretty good answer to Elspeth at certain spots, as it's not something that Elspeth can minus away. It can also tap down an entire team. So it's very synergistic with Whip of Erebos. It's also synergistic with Delve, and it helps against Elspeth preemptively. But at this point, we're past that point. Torrent Elementals have no help right now.
So Reid will shuffle it away. Delta will search up a swamp. He'll stay at the same life total of 16. And what was so close to being a 2-0 lead for Reid Duke over Jacob Wilson, that Siege Rhino top deck for Wilson in game 2 made it 1-1. He's pretty far ahead here.
Well, this is one of those games where Reid, he mulliganed and never got any of his powerful stuff going. Now, Sidisi on top of his deck is very nice, but perhaps a bit late.
It's actually an interesting draw as Sidisi. That might be one of the better draws he could have this turn. We'll see what Wilson draws here, but the fact that he can play Sidisi, exploit something, and then Hero's Downfall the Elspeth, actually pretty nice here for Reid. Does have 8 mana with the 7 lands and Sylvan Carry added. Well, one Sidisi deserves another. And this card has been impressive all weekend long.
In Reid's deck, it feels like kind of the crux of the strategy because he's got so much synergy with it. Jacob feels like it's more incidental in his deck, but that's in many ways more impressive, that he's not going out of his way to make Sidisi powerful, but it's still awesome when it shows up.
Hero's Downfall on top. I think that may have been what Reid was just going to search for anyway. Here's a Murderous Cut. And that's the old exploit trick. For those of you who don't know, when an opponent plays something with exploit, trigger goes on the stack, and if you kill the exploit creature, when you try to resolve it, you can't resolve exploit because Sidisi's not there.
Which I think is a really important thing from an R&D perspective, as you see an Elspeth emblem here in a attack for lethal.
Yep.
Because the exploit creatures play a lot like spells.
Yeah.
So it's nice that creature removal is still something that can interact with it.
And Jacob knew that interaction right away. That's why he searched for a Murderous Cut. Kills Reid Sidisi, and then Reid cannot tutor up an answer to the Elspeth. Dies to Elspeth and the emblem. Jacob Wilson, 1 game away from being our Season 1 Invitational Champion here in Richmond. What a swing it has been. 1 Siege Rhino top deck, all of a sudden he's back into it. Now he's got the lead.
Exactly, and this is a matchup where coming in, we thought that Jacob was behind here. Jacob said the same thing to me as well while we were talking in between rounds. Reid pretty easily dispatched of a similar matchup in the quarterfinals, but I think that Jacob's play so far has been a bit tighter than Joe Bass's was in the top 8. There was some slight errors there, both strategically and tactically, that Reid was able to capitalize on here, and Jacob with a timely draw, to say the least, in game number 2, and Reid in game 3 mulliganed and sort of sputtered out before we got anything going.
I know oftentimes the conversation is had about who is the best player in the world. Reid Duke, Owen Turtenwall, Yui Watanabe, Huey Jensen, so on and so forth. Jacob Wilson oftentimes not included in that conversation, but perhaps he will be in a year or two. I mean, he's already got a great resume and so young.
Well, at a certain point, those kind of conversations about who the best player in the world is, a lot of it's almost myth and storytelling. Not to say that there aren't valid arguments, but maybe there's one iconic match, or maybe someone just has the right friends who are saying the right things about people in articles and stuff like that. So anyone who's saying definitively who the best player in the world is, I think, is kind of full of nonsense. But these 2 players definitely on the short list of the tier 1 players in the world, that's for sure.
Well, you can certainly share your opinion on who you think is one of the best in the world. And these guys are certainly on the list in the feature match area. You can join it today. Slow mode right now, but you can fix that if you want.
Exactly. Slow mode chat is for everyone available right now, and that means you get to post once every 2 minutes. But for a $4.99 a month subscription, you get access to unlimited posting, plus these custom emoticons and badges that you see right here on the screen here, and more coming down the pipeline. Twitch.tv/SCG Live to subscribe today.
Game number 4 going to be underway shortly here between Wilson and Duke. Duke will be on the play. See what he can put together here. Still think the match may be slightly in Reid's favor, even though Jacob does have the lead. As I said, play skill here, rather equal. We'll just see how the cards do fall.
No one's going to bungle this one away.
No, that will not happen.
The matchup certainly isn't lopsided. And, we saw that game 2 was very close, and Jacob was just able to squeeze it out. And game 3, Reid is certainly capable of draws that don't really go anywhere. But I like the Sultai Rhiannon side of the matchup. Jacob said the same thing to me as well. He said, I like my semifinal matchup a lot, but I think I'm behind whoever I had to play in the finals.
Jacob Wilson celebrating a birthday a couple days ago. This would be a nice way to start it off.
Yeah, for sure. 20th, I think.
Yeah.
Still a pup.
I wish I was this good at anything when I was 20. Does eating count? I was really good at eating when I was 20.
I don't know what does really good at eating mean? Because really good at eating can also mean really bad at eating. If I'm thinking of the context I think you're describing.
Well, just me eating everything in front of me.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
That's being bad at eating, I think.
It's good and bad.
Well, are you eating competitively? Then it's pretty sweet, actually.
Depends on who I'm competing against.
Okay.
Myself, my friends, or do I have to be in like an event?
I think that you have to be in an event.
Then no.
Okay.
It depends on what your definition of event is.
Something with a prize or a trophy.
Again, depends on depends on what you think a prize is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Is it a free T-shirt?
You can. I guess you can frame your T-shirt from Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever. So if you want to count that as a trophy, I guess that counts.
My shirt, I can do whatever I want with it.
Right.
As I proved at dinner earlier this weekend when I barbecue sauce all over me because I'm just an animal.
Yeah. Classic sloppy play.
Yeah.
Should have run the no blocks on the wing. Blocked, got all over his shirt.
Yep. Tough to
Come
watch.
back to the room. There's just resting water in the bathtub with your shirt in it.
It's a tough Friday. It's a tough Friday.
To watch. Tough to watch.
Tough Friday. Just one day in my wonderful life.
Yeah, just shirt ruined, bathtub ruined. Lord only knows what the cleaning staff had to say when they got in there.
They can't judge me.
Yeah. Either this person spilled barbecue sauce on themselves or they shot a dude.
Or both.
Or I suppose both.
Reid going to take a mulligan down to 6 here. To come mulligan last game, Hand didn't really line up all that great, though a timely discard spell took care of his treasure cruise. He'll keep this one, a forest, and we're underway in game number 4.
Aaron Locklose, Judge Aaron Locklose.
Temple of Silence here for Jacob.
Joey.
Top card stays on top. We go to Reid. Reid will draw. Oh boy.
One of these.
Feels like a Seder Wayfinder hand.
Perhaps a Sylvan Caryatid hand.
Yeah. There's Corsair. Take a look at the top card. Obzon Charm. Kick it over. Duke. Take a draw.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Time to discard.
I mean, in Thoughtseize matchups, you got to keep some hands like this. Going to 5 and getting hit with one discard spell is an easy way to lose. So Reid took some risks here, but so far has caught the bad end.
And there goes to DC. Obzon Charm the draw. Siege Rhino on top of the deck.
Yeah.
His ops on charm.
We have not seen this play before in this kind of matchup, but Jacob just trying to slam the door before Reid can draw out.
Yep, getting aggressive is Wilson. Rarely do you see the counter mode in this sort of matchup, typically reserved for draw 2. Windswept Heath.
I mean, this is an attack to 12, a Siege Rhino activation down to 9.
Yep. There is Siege Rhino.
No fuss, no muss.
Reid will draw a card. Jacob going to sacrifice his fetch line really quick here. Top card's a Sidisi. It doesn't look to be a land. It is certainly a tough way for things to end here for Reid Duke, but it will be Jacob Wilson. He is the winner over Reid Duke, 3-1. He is your Season 1 Invitational Champion here from Richmond.